Crypto tutors, crypto tutors, hey.
It's a way.
Making money in my sleep? Making money in my sleep.
Welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Couch. We are all about simplifying cryptocurrency and blockchain through edutainment, which is what you're seeing here in the Crypto Couch. You heard original song, the Crypto Tutors Anthem. We also offer e-learning and one-on-one tutoring, and ultimately we want to help you transform knowledge into wealth. So today we have a very special guest, Justen Hannah. And it was so funny because when I asked Justen to send me his bio, he sent as part of his bio the expression, you know how curiosity kills the cat? Well, he's not the cat, he's curiosity. So Justen, I don't think that I can do you justice in terms of introducing you to the audience. And so I would just love to hear from you. Tell us, Mr. Hannah, who you be.
Who I be? Well, my name is Justen Hannah. I've always been a very curious person. But
you don't say.
Yeah, no, I don't say it all, right? But actually, the thing about my curiosity is what makes me successful and thrive and makes me have my unique personality. With that comes with me being a problem solver. I've taken that to the highest levels. I work with enterprise, Fortune 500 companies to help solve problems for them, even like specifically in telecom issues. Been an entrepreneur for, I don't even know, since I was a little kid. I started selling stereos and putting them in people's cars back in high school. What else?
Hardware. You've been a hardware guy.
Yeah, I love technology. I've been messing with electronics for a long time. And that kind of just followed me. I invented a purse for your iPad for all the ladies. So you don't throw your iPad in your purse and scratch up the screen. I made a patent pending custom design. The only other company that I know that does that is LV, Louis Vuitton.
Okay.
I was the first. It's called Agora. And then after that, I made another company called Get Rich or Die Mining, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about later on.
Hold on. Wait. Let me make sure that we heard that correctly. Get rich or die mining.
Exactly right.
That's why he has the microphone, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, this guy, he's about to get on the 1 and 2. Is this thing on?
hey, I'm about to try. Hopefully, I'm going to give you guys a lot of information, my experiences, my pathway, let you know the do's and don'ts of what I've learned, drop some gems on you guys. But I'm here to share the wealth and hopefully give some inspiration to everyone else to let you know that if you just put in the time and the work, you'll definitely be able to figure out something that you want to do. And blockchain and cryptocurrencies is definitely going to be the wave of the future. So you definitely want to get in it now. And even though it's been out for a while, it's never too late. It's not.
Love to hear it, and we're going to make sure that you drop gems, because we're going to make sure that we extract them. This is all about mining, so of course that's going to be that's going to be a way that we rock and we roll for this session of the Crypto Couch. So Justen, when we think about the guests that we host on the Crypto Couch, what we're striving to do is really humanize the technology, and so when I got wind of you having, at one point in time, one of the largest Ethereum mining rigs, so to speak, in North America, my mind was blown, because I've actually never met a Black miner. And so before we get into that, I would love if you could just explain to us, what is mining in relation to cryptocurrency?
Well, there's going to be a lot of answers, but I'll simplify it as much as I can. All right. The way that I like to explain it to people is like such. Everyone has a debit card or a credit card, right? Yeah. All right.
Yep.
And, when you go to the store and you want to go buy something, you swipe your card on that machine, and that machine miraculously says, hey, you paid for this stuff, you can get out the door, right? But really what that machine at the store is doing is validating that account that's tied to that card has the necessary funds inside of it.
Right.
So mining is no different than that. So when you talk about Bitcoin, when you talk about Ethereum and some other coins that use the mining version for their algorithms, that's exactly what mining does. So mining, what it will do is it uses computer hardware and it validates if you, Lisa, have want to send me one Ethereum coin, it validates that you actually have that coin by a distributed ledger, and then it does a whole bunch of math. No one really cares about that. And then after it checks to see if you have that coin, it says, yes, Lisa has that coin. All right, cool. And we're going to send it to Justen. And so it takes that coin and sends it and puts it in my wallet. No different than what a credit card machine does at the store. So it's the same thing. But there are extra layers on top of that. And I'm sure we'll get into, you know, the breakdown of what those extra layers do as well, too.
Thank you so much for giving us that like pretty relatable analogy, because I think that when people hear the term mining, myself included, it's like, what does that mean? And how does that relate to, you know, like, how does that relate to procuring and obtaining cryptocurrency? It's very interesting, and we're going to demystify that process. So thank you for making that you know, explanation so relatable and understandable. And we want to continue to keep it as simple as possible so that people can really wrap their heads around it. So Justen, let's talk a little bit about, you know, how did you get involved in mining? Like, what led you to decide that I want to get into mining, and why Ethereum versus Bitcoin?
Well, really, what happened is I was working at a company, and I got laid off. All right. This was, I don't know, 2017, 16, somewhere back in the day. Right. And I was in sales. So when I was in sales, I was very successful at sales. I'm a great talker. I like to think so myself. And I used to convince people of tons of crazy things to say, hey, you should buy X, Y, and Z. Right. But so that made it very, very, profitable for me, and I had a lot of savings after I, you know, got laid off. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to work for a while. What can I put my money into? My buddy, he goes, hey, Justen, I need you to check this out. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He's like, you need to check out mining. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, crypto mining. I'm like, what is that? He's like, here, I'll just show you a link. I'm going to get into it, and I think you should get into it too. And now, granted, this friend of mine, we kind of have this competition that goes back all the way since like freshman year of high school. So we've been friends for a while. So
okay, so he's a trusted source. So when he came to you, you were like, I'll entertain it.
Yeah. I definitely, yeah. If he says something, it's the same way. If I come to him and say, hey, look, I think this idea is good, he'll be like, okay, let me look into it. And he vets it just like I do. So it's the same exact thing. He said, look into crypto mining. He said he was going to get into it. As soon as he said he was going to get into it, I was like, oh, say less, right? So I spent, I don't know, I don't even say 2 days, no sleep, just, you know, taking everything in. As much information I could find. You got to think about in 2017, there was not a lot of information.
But Justen, did you were you in crypto, or was like that your foray?
No,
into the space?
That was my intro right there.
Stop it. So you went from 0 to 100 real quick, because it wasn't just like, let me invest in it. You were like, let me mine it.
Yeah, let me mine it.
You didn't even know what the hell mining meant.
Exactly. Oh, to be honest with you, when he said mining, and people ask me, hey, Justen, what was mining? Back, if you would have asked me in 17, I'd be like, oh, you know, it's like when you go to a cave and you're like with an axe and you're looking for something, you're looking for a piece of gold. Well, that's exactly what crypto mining is, right? I was so off that. I mean, it's right, but it's really not. It's really not.
But you know what, though? They do liken Bitcoin to, you know, digital gold. So technically speaking, there is some, you know, there is some similarities there.
Right. So, I mean, honestly, the reason why you could technically say it is mining is because you're searching. The whole thing behind mining is whoever can find the solution to the code first. So you actually are looking for something when you are mining. And so what I found out along my journey in this 24-hour period is that you needed a whole bunch of computer hardware to have, you know, some light coding skills and a lot of power, a lot of electricity. So that's all I got. But when I looked at, you know, the profitability and I started seeing those numbers, I was like, oh, snap, you can make how much? Like I was like, it was a no-brainer at that point, because when I got into mining, you know, whatever you put in for your initial investment, you would get it back in about 3 months.
Wow. Okay. So you said that because we're all about transforming knowledge into wealth. So to get the wait, before we get into like the mechanics behind it, after you did this 24-hour, 48-hour, just nonstop research, then what? Then what happened?
I said, okay, how much money do I have? How much am I willing to spend? Like a good, smart, financially astute person. All right.
That's what we're trying to cultivate. Smart,
exactly. Right?
Financially astute.
No, for real. Listen, I mean,
people.
You don't want to make these mistakes. You don't want to go all in blind on anything. So
right.
What I found out is that a lot of this stuff is pretty attainable. It's just what I chose to get into specifically was they're called altcoins, right? So Bitcoin is the main cryptocurrency everyone knows about, and every other coin besides Bitcoin is considered a altcoin or a alternative coin. So altcoins, they don't use the same type of computer hardware. There's two different types of computer hardware. There's one that's GPU based. All that really means is a graphics card that that you put in a computer.
Okay.
All right. And then the other one's called ASIC. And ASIC is it can only be used for one specific thing, and that's why Bitcoin was completely different. So I decided to go down the altcoin path because the cost to get into mining was a lot lower.
Okay.
All right.
And also, too, I read about mining Bitcoin can take minutes versus mining an altcoin like Ethereum, which can take seconds.
Well, that's true. But so one of the things about mining is that there's a file associated. So the whole thing about cryptocurrency is that all of the currencies are supposed to be on a distributed ledger, right? So all
that's the blockchain.
Yeah, that is the blockchain. But what that means is that not one person is in control of all the information. Right. So everyone has to share the information amongst their computers.
That's what decentralized means.
Exactly. Right. So there's a file, it's called a DAG. And so the more and more people are using altcoins or cryptocurrencies or Bitcoins, every single transaction adds another line to this code. So eventually this file gets big. So since Bitcoin was one of the first cryptocurrencies, it had a bigger file size than other cryptocurrencies. Okay. So it's just like, say you had no one uses USB drives anymore, right? But say you had a USB drive and you had it full of music. And at first you could put, 100 songs on there. And then there was some space left. And then you could put another 50 songs on there, and there was still some space left. The more and more space you take up, the longer it takes to load that music. And it's the same exact thing of why some cryptocurrencies take a longer amount of time to mine versus other cryptocurrencies, because their file is just bigger.
Got it. Super duper helpful. Again, I'm loving these analogies that you're using to help people relate to these concepts in a way that's understandable, and like they can apply, they can connect the dots, because you're talking their talk. So we really appreciate you for that. So Justen, okay, again, you decided that, okay, let me assess how much I want to go in to the mining world. And what was the first step you did after you decided, okay, I'm going to invest X amount of dollars? Then what?
Proof of concept.
Okay.
All right. So for me, proof of concept is just getting the functional pieces to make sure that I know what I'm doing and I can make it work. All right. So like the bare minimum requirements, and those requirements for altcoin mining or cryptocurrency mining, particularly Ethereum, you needed a graphics card, a motherboard, these things called risers.
Okay.
And, I'll try to explain a riser in a little bit to you guys. And then you need a power supply, right? So pretty much it's just a computer that doesn't really do anything but mine this algorithm, all right? That's all it does.
Okay.
All right.
So this computer is solely devoted to, I guess, mathematical equations, right? Like an algorithm is a mathematical equation. It's a formula. And so the computer's sole job is to solve these equations. And
exactly.
okay.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You hit it right on the head. And so the funny thing about it is that gamers were really upset when the whole mining frenzy took off because all the miners started taking their graphics cards. And for the gamers out there, that's exactly what you need to play all those cool video games like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed or any of those, cool video games you like to pay. That's the same exact hardware you would use to do mining. So actually a lot of gamers mined on the time that they weren't playing video games, and then they would turn it off to play their video games. So a lot of people got into it when it very first came out. And then what people realize is that you can actually start putting multiple graphics cards on a computer, and then the more graphics cards you have, the more powerful your miner became.
Wow. Were you a gamer? I'm just curious.
Not at all.
Not at all. So
never built a computer in my life.
This is really fascinating because, again, 0 to 100, like you went from someone that was not in crypto to someone that was mining crypto. And there wasn't much, there doesn't seem to be much along the way that you just you went right, you just dove right in. I think that speaks volumes about your personality. You were talking about being curious. And so I guess that's a testament to how, curiosity did not kill the cat, but made the cat more money. So let's talk about it. How lucrative was the mining process?
Well, so Ethereum back in the day was about a 10-to-1 ratio to Bitcoin, right? So let's say Bitcoin was at $3,000. That means Ethereum would have been $300, right?
Okay.
Now, fast forward, it's not like that anymore. A lot of people are not happy with some of the things that happen with Ethereum along the way.
Those gas fees, we're not gonna talk about it.
No, we're gonna get there. There's a lot of information to give you guys. So let's just say a normal setup to make a mining rig cost about anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500, right? And that's gonna be maxing out how much you could put on one computer. That's how people would go about it back in the day. How many graphics cards could you put on a motherboard? At the time, I think it was 12. All right.
Okay.
So that's the most you could put on there. You can that setup would cost anywhere between $1,200 and on the higher end $3,500, depending on the type of equipment you had and the deals, right? So
and the what?
The deals you could find.
The deals
on the computer parts.
Oh, okay. The deals. Sorry, that accent kind of threw me off. My bad. I was like, oh, is this some other technical term?
Nah. So with that being said, the way that it works is that you spend about $3,500. You have a machine that will process all these transactions, find the algorithm, right? Back in the day, back in 2017. It started off being around anywhere between $500 to $800 a coin to get. So every time you would mine or process and get rewarded one full Ethereum coin, it would be worth about $500 to $800 depending on the the time of the year. Okay? So you just do the math. I just told you it was anywhere between $1,200 to $3,500. How long does that take to get your money back? You're talking about what, 3 to 6 months?
Right.
All right. After that, that's pure profit. And that profit that we're talking about is
wait, that's technically not pure profit because there are operational costs, right? You've got electricity, you've got...
Hold on.
I'll be doing that.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right. No, I'm glad that you said that. So that's exactly my next point. So when I say pure profit and that cost of the machine, the way that miners calculate their operational costs is it's going to be after... It's going to be after the electricity use, pretty much, right?
Okay.
So the average electricity used back in the day was about, 8 cents, 10 cents, depending on if you had where you're at in the country. So after you paid your electricity bill, you then profited about $500 to $800.
Okay. How much was the electricity bill, or how much did it increase incrementally? What was the incremental amount of growth in their bill based on the electricity you were needing?
I'm going to try to remember the formula that we came up with. It did work out to be a percentage, right? I think it was 10%. Okay. So the way that you would calculate all these numbers is you would you would calculate how much power a miner uses. So
right.
for every 1,000 watts is about $10. Okay, so some of our machines, we would be using up to 10,000 watts.
Okay.
Which is a lot. So that's like $100 in electricity, all right? And then, you know, of course, during the summertime, it could go up, or during the wintertime, you know, when people are using their electricity more. But that's pretty much the formula. It was about 10%. So whatever your, how much power you're using, just calculate about 10% of that, and that's how much you would go to electricity cost.
Okay. And does it get hot? I'm just curious. Does like the machinery itself, doesn't it get super hot?
Yes, that's
okay.
So I was living in a 3-bedroom apartment when I first started doing this. It was me, my roommate, and then I had my son in the other room, right? So I actually chose to empty one of my rooms out and make that where all the machines were going to go because it was that hot. Now, these machines, they get pretty up there. They measure it in Celsius. I can't think off the top of my head, but you're talking close to, you don't want your machines to be running anywhere past like, let's say 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But in actuality, they can handle a lot more because they're computers. So these they can actually run up to like 100 degrees. I mean, once you start getting that high though, that's really bad. A lot of times they would just shut down. So during this process, the more machines you have, the more heat it puts off. So then the next component about mining is understanding cooling management. And a lot of people came up with a lot of creative ways. People would turn on their AC. People would open up their windows and put box fans in there. And so what I decided to do, I'll put it this way. Being from California, California is known for other industrious endeavors, all right? So they have a lot of cool hardware for their number one industry out in California. It's the same one that's in Colorado also, okay, guys? So
they can't see the green screen, but I mean, I feel like y'all could read between the lines on that one.
Exactly, right? So they use what they call inline fans. And these inline fans have really high CFM ratings. And all that means is cubic feet per meters, right? So it's just like how much air could you pass through a room in a minute, right? So the more cubic feet CFM that a fan had, the faster it could suck air out or blow air into a room. And that's what we use to start keeping these machines cooler. So we would put a fan at the top and it would suck all the heat out the top of the room and blow it out the window. And then we had another one hooked up to the AC vent, and it would blow all the cold air at the very bottom of the floor. So then it would start cooling the machines down from where they're at on the ground level. So it was a lot of interesting things that we had to run into. That was just one.
That's really fascinating because I feel like when people talk about mining, you know, I don't think people spend enough time on, because I know there's, especially with all of the like hype around crypto and what have you now, the heating component, right? Like if you do not have the proper cooling equipment as well as, you know, the machinery, then like you're going to run into a situation where, and I hope this never happened to you, but I'm just curious, were there ever any issues with the machinery overheating? And then like, what are the implications of that, right? Like, does that like just take you offline? Is that the extent of it? Or do you lose the Ethereum or whatever crypto that you've mined?
Well, okay, so yes, no, yes, no to all those questions, right?
Sorry, I have a bad habit of asking one question.
No, I got you. I'm gonna tackle. You ready? I'm gonna get every last one. Here we go. Okay.
Let's go.
So, the way, yes. So if your machines got too hot, the first thing that will happen is that the whole thing will just turn off. So you have downtime. So the way that it works for mining is the longer your machines are on, the more money you will make because it's, you know, always processing. So it's not that you're losing money. Like if you're in the middle of a transaction, like, well, you never finished processing it. So that was never yours to begin with. All right. But the moment that you're no longer online, you're missing out on all those minutes or hours or days, because we had a lot of trouble shooting that we had to go through. You're missing all that time of being able to get money by processing those transactions. So absolutely, heating is probably one of the biggest hiccups in mining. The other thing that's one of the biggest hiccups in mining is that the heat will actually start having a negative impact, or actually causes the life of your machinery to go down faster than normal use. So so graphics cards are made to last about 10 years. Now, and that's with, intermittent use. That means you turn your computer on to play a video game and then you turn it back off. You can do that for 10 years. Your graphics card's not gonna have any problems. Right. You're talking about using your graphics cards 24/7, 365.
Wow.
All right. So it never turns off, not at all. All right. So, and then when you start running into that, the graphics cards will, they're going to work, but then, I have graphics cards where the cooling feature on it, the cooling fan the glue would melt off. And then so the cooling part would fall off. And every time you have issues with graphics cards, back in the day, the companies would be like, yeah, send it in, we'll fix it. But as soon as people start using it for mining, they're like, yeah, no, we're not going to warranty that. Sorry. Next time.
So what happens what do you do?
Well, hopefully it's been over 3 months and you wouldn't care. So,
that's fair.
That's really the only way to really think about it is, these cards don't go bad in 3 months or 6 months. You could probably
What's their lifespan? Typically you said 10 years, but
so I just sold all of the graphics cards I bought when I first started last year. All right. So that's 3 years of use, and I sold them for exactly what I bought them for.
Wow.
And
3 years later?
3 years later. And the reason being is because the mining
inflation.
The mining market put a strangle on the gaming market for graphics cards. And so it drove the cost of these graphics cards up by 3x. So a graphics card that normally cost $150 is now going for $500. All right. So you had a whole nother market, and we could talk about a whole nother business that I created around that, which is what I mentioned earlier, which was the get rich die mining. And that was actually created for people who were like me, but I was like, hey, you know what? I made all these mistakes. I've already harnessed all the relationships with, international suppliers for certain, custom computer parts, having direct access to manufacturers. Let me pass on the savings and the loss of sleepless nights. Let me save you from all that. And that's why I created that particular company, which was to give the game, which is kind of what you guys are doing now, exactly the same thing. But I did it back then for the same purposes.
That's so awesome. That institutional knowledge is invaluable. And I'm happy to hear that you commoditize your expertise. I think that's something that, we're all about transforming knowledge into wealth. And I think that's an example of how to do it and do it well. So let me ask you this, your as far as I know, and being a Black miner, right? Was there a big community of people of color in the mining world when you got started?
It depends on how you want to look at that. So if you want to say people of color and just narrow it down to Black people, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I would say a handful. And you got to kind of just realize that there's definitely levels and gaps of information that's passed on between communities. And, being in cryptocurrency, it doesn't even matter if you were a minority or not. People in America didn't even know what it was. So that just takes out a whole entire category by itself. Really, the biggest crypto miners in the world are all in Asia because that's where they do all the stuff at. That's where all the graphics cards are made. That's where all the Bitcoin machines are made. So China is the biggest. I think they have 67% market share on mining, and America only has 6% market share.
Wow.
That's right now. That's 2021.
Wow. That's a really crucial stat, because another thing about the mining is the electricity that is required, right? Like we talked about it on a relatively small scale, but when we're talking about it at the level of a country getting involved, I think in Iran recently, there was a power outage on account of debatably, right? Like there was a school of thought that the Bitcoin mining was what caused the blackouts, but the government says that wasn't the case. But nonetheless, when you start talking about mining at that scale, I mean, there's also carbon emissions associated with that. So it's not just the amount of electricity that is required. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't believe that at all.
Okay.
And the reason why I don't believe that is it depends on the school of thought you're from, right? So if you're from the school of thought where, let's say you go to the grocery store and you buy food and you only eat almost all of it and there's some left over and you throw it away. Did you waste the food or was it already wasted?
Touche.
You get what I'm saying? So you already bought it from the store. Once you buy it from the store, actually, once it's picked from the farm, it's gone. Like it doesn't count anymore. That's actually how, another financial thing that we're gonna talk about, GDP is calculated by the moment that it's sold the very first time.
Gross domestic product. We got to make sure we don't use acronyms that not everybody knows.
So GDP is calculated from the very first time it's sold, and every time after that, it does not matter. So it's the same thing with electricity. The electricity was already generated. So whether you use it or not, it's still going to be used. It's not like mining is making more carbon emissions.
Okay.
It's using the electricity that was already there, and the carbon emissions were already made from that electricity that was already there. And also in Iran, they have a nuclear power plant. So, I mean, I don't think that really matters either.
Well, that's fair. I think that at the end of the day, it's interesting to see that the biggest miners in the world are now countries, right? Yep. So you mentioned that China, 67% of the market share is owned by China right now.
Yep. And the reason being is because they make the equipment and then they use it. And so after they get in using it, while they're using it, they're making another version of the newer miner. So what they're really doing is selling the rest of the world use crypto miners. So a lot of people don't know that. So when they buy a big machine, you're like,
edit that out.
What, edit that out? Okay, fine. All right.
I'm just being silly. Don't mind.
Oh, you're good. What else do you want to know?
Look, I mean, you gave us a lot of information, Justen. I'm very appreciative that you took the time to share your knowledge. I mean, I think that, it's a very interesting time that we're living in, because I wouldn't say crypto and blockchain has gotten to the point of critical mass, but I will say that, it's a part of the national discourse, and more people are curious and are wanting to get involved. And, if investing, is your entry point, I would also encourage you to understand, or at least explore, or be curious, right? Taking a chapter out of Justen's playbook, be curious about how do we procure crypto? Like where does it come from? What does it require? And I think, Justen, again, you've done a phenomenal job of just outlining what is required to mine crypto, to mine Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So thank you for all of that knowledge and that wisdom.
Now, Lisa, one of the main things that we didn't get to speak about earlier on was the fact that how mining and miners are really the backbone of cryptocurrency. Without miners, you literally would not be able to send your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your Light Cash, your Bitcoin Cash. You wouldn't be able to send it back and forth because the miners are what makes that work. So mining is just as, if not one of the most important things to make cryptocurrencies work for everyone to use it around the world.
And boom goes the dynamite. That's what we brought you to the people, Justen, because this is crypto and blockchain for the culture.
Hey, I got you guys all day. Facts only.
My last question to you is about your legacy roadmap. I always am curious about, when we no longer walk this earth, what will people say about us? And I pose that question to you now.
All right. That's an excellent question. So my legacy, I think that my legacy is really going to be passed down through the knowledge and all the initiatives that I've been taking to help others out. And that's going to be shown in multiple different ways, not only through my son that I have and all the time that I'm investing in him to make sure that he's going to be on the right path, but it's more so some of the programs of well too. So one of the things that I'm working on is a special blockchain. And I think that this special blockchain is going to reshape the way that everyone sends information and does communication. A lot of the issues that are going on right now is all about cybersecurity, security threats, people hacking information, and people don't realize that the core value of all these cryptocurrencies is actually the technology behind it. And that's going to be the blockchain. And blockchain can do millions of things.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I'm working on is a special blockchain, and you guys will probably never know that it's me when it comes out. I'm gonna be like Satoshi, all right?
Okay.
And but I'll
know. I'll be working with you, but that's another story.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm sure you will. You'll be my spokesperson, right? Yes. So that's what my legacy will be known for. It's going to be known for the generosity of myself, the kindness of my heart, and my willingness to always help out others. Because growing up, speaking to the minorities, and that's a minority from any walk of life, whether it's your race or gender or where you're located at geographically, you face some type of challenges and struggles, and that's to put it very light. And I've faced all those same struggles and challenges that you guys have faced as well. And it really just came from no one giving that information to say, hey, this is how you can make life easier. And so what my legacy is going to be about is just making other people's life easier by giving them the knowledge.
Awesome. And I mean, you and the conversation we had today is a testament to you, to being your legacy, to honoring your legacy. And I'm excited to learn more and hear more about your blockchain. I didn't really want to dig into it because I know that right now we're in stealth mode. So, we don't need to talk about what all the capabilities will be, but I know it's going to be spectacular because I know you. So, Justen, really want to acknowledge you for the time and the energy you put into, I can't help it. You put into our conversation. Really appreciate you. Where can people find you? How can people stay connected with you? We want to make sure that they follow your journey.
Definitely. So everything for social media is actually my name. It's Justen Hannah. So my name's spelled JUSTEN HANNAH. And that's going to be on LinkedIn. That's on Instagram. The only thing that's different is Twitter, where it's the real Justen H, because someone stole my Twitter handle. So other than that, just search my name in. I'm the only one literally in the world spells my name JUSTEN. And I'm sure I'll be the first person that pops up.
Dope. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we bring you Justen Hannah. If you hadn't heard, he had one of the largest Ethereum mining rigs in North America. It was kind of a tongue twister, Justen. One of the largest Ethereum mining rigs in North America. And today he gave you a lot of what enables him to get to that point. He broke it down, gave you the playbook. This is somebody that you want to continue to follow the journey of. And we'll continue to bring you the geniuses in the crypto and blockchain space, humanizing the technology, because it's really the technology behind the crypto that makes it what it is. So with that being said, we out.
Late.
Peace.
Want to learn more? Visit cryptotutors.com.